Well, good morning, fellow patriots. Welcome to the 328th consecutive Friday Assembly of the East Valley Red Friday Patriots. Glad to have all of you join us this morning to send a shout out to America's deployed service members. You know, back on February 28th this year, we celebrated this Red Friday group's 300th anniversary, 300 consecutive Friday assemblies. And those folks that were present at that event, all 193 of you, were presented with a special commemorative lapel pin marking that occasion. Many of you have that pin on today. Well, we officially changed the group's name on that date to East Valley Red Friday Patriots, and that pin was an introduction of a very nice logo for this group. Well, recently, Barry McDonald and his wife Kelly's daughter, Tess, who lives in Henderson, Tennessee, submitted a very handsome design for our group. Tess is an accomplished graphic designer, and I applaud her for her work on the design. So allow me to introduce the artwork designed by Tess. Now, isn't that a dandy? You know, it encompasses the spirit of Arizona and draws attention to the East Valley using the familiar Superstition Mountains and desert foreground, with Old Glory in all her majesty waving overhead. And it highlights the meaning of red with the words, "Remember everyone deployed," and the first letter of each of those words in bold. Now, here it is on blue. I showed it to you on white. We have it on black and we have it on red. So if you want to have this design transferred and pressed or silk screen or embroidered on a shirt or whatever of your choice, I will be including these graphics in an email that will be going out to all of our members summarizing this meeting today, and you can then copy and paste the design and send it to whoever you choose to do your silk screening, embroidering, or your heat transfer. So, Tess, we can't thank you enough for providing this beautiful artwork, and Barry and Kelly, thank you for working with Tess to coordinate this project. Job well done. May I have a hoo-ah for Tess? Thank you. You know, I think most of you are aware that I'm really not a very private person. I mean, I've shared numerous intimate stories with you guys about me and my family, especially my East Texas clan. So I have no reluctance in opening up to anybody. So that said, this morning I thought I'd share a quite personal experience that happened to me recently. Now, I'm sure that many of you at some time in your lives have had a colonoscopy. Well, I've had several over the years, and as I look back on my experiences, quite frankly, I'm starting to question my sanity. I keep asking myself, why the hell did I do that? You know, insanity is defined as a state of mind which prevents normal perception or normal social interactions or normal behavior. I mean, who in their right mind would pay a stranger to knock them unconscious, shove a foreign object up their butt, and film the whole thing? That's not normal behavior. Never has been and never will be. So I'm now questioning my sanity because last Monday afternoon, I went in for what I hope to be my last colonoscopy. But I must admit that it was by far the easiest colonoscopy I've ever had, especially the prep in advance of the procedure, all that Gatorade mix. So if any of you have a colonoscopy procedure that might be due anytime soon, I would highly recommend the practice that I went to on Monday. It's a rather unusual clinic because both a psychiatrist and a proctologist practice out of the same office. They call it odds and ends. Well, prior to my procedure, I was speaking to my assigned nurse and learned that my proctologist must be an avid golfer. She said he does 18 holes a day. And it was only after the procedure when I got back home that I realized what she really meant by that statement. Now, during the actual procedure, I think my doctor must have gotten carried away. So I told him, I said, "Doc, can you back that thing up a little?" I said, "It's irritating my tonsils." Then, following the procedure, I was in the recovery room with my wife, and the doctor came in to discuss the results of the procedure, and I learned that my wife is wrong and has been all this time. My head ain't up there. Now, Hank has been saying that all along, so that was welcome news that the doc delivered. So, all in all, the doc gave me 2 thumbs up, no pun intended. And in the final analysis, I guess I'm not as full of crap as Hank thought I was. Now, by the way, here's a suggestion. If your primary care physician refers you for a colonoscopy and you can't afford health care, go to an airport. They give free x-rays, and if you mention Al-Qaeda, they'll throw in a free colonoscopy too. Please join me in our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, thank you. I do want to take this opportunity to welcome a couple of first-time guests that we have with us this morning. We have a lady in the back of the room who is a guest of Betty, who's been coming to our program now for quite some time, and that's Vivian Patrick. Vivian, will you stand? Vivian's husband served in the United States Army and her son in the United States Air Force. She's a local resident here in Apache Junction. Glad to have you out with us today, Vivian. Thank you for joining us. And we also have Chad Howie. Chad, will you stand one moment? Chad is an employee of Archwell Health, is that correct? And you work with Heather, and I can assure you, you would have no better company than Heather. Well, she laughs at my jokes, and that's all that counts. Chad, glad to have you with us today and certainly hope you'll return. Thank you for joining us. May I have a hoo-ah for these guests? Hoo-ah! Thank you, thank you. Also, I noticed that Chip Wilson, our mayor here in Apache Junction, snuck in the back door. Glad to have you back with us today. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to have to get an engraved nameplate on that chair for you, Chip. You know, this past Wednesday, September 10, 2 days ago, America lost a true patriot to an assassin's bullet. I think no one would suggest that Charles James Kirk, lovingly referred to as Charlie, was destined for greatness because he had already accomplished greatness at age 31. Charlie was strongly conservative. He was a man of deep religious faith. His youth organization, Turning Point USA, took the conservative voice to college campuses with the sole objective of promoting open debate about political and religious beliefs. Charlie somehow knew exactly how to connect with America's youth, and he was so very much admired by millions upon millions of followers. Charlie did not attend college himself, but he launched Turning Point USA as a teenager, nor did he serve in the armed forces. Nevertheless, he was a patriot through and through and was profoundly successful in promoting patriotism through his youth movement. Charlie Kirk's assassination was an abominable act of violence. And although it is yet to be ascertained that the suspect now in custody is in fact the suspect, his assassination is quite likely linked to domestic terrorism because of his conservative and religious values. So, as we commemorate the tragedy of 9/11 and the thousands of victims who died and were injured on that fatal day, I think it only appropriate that we acknowledge a great American patriot, Charlie Kirk. Rest in peace. Yesterday, our country commemorated Patriot Day, a day to remember the events of September 11, 2001, and the many lives that were lost as a result of that horrendous event. If asked, where were you on that day? The response is generally prompt and explicit because no one has forgotten that day. How could they? Let's take a moment and listen to a song by Alan Jackson regarding the events of 9/11. Here is Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning? Tuesday, September 11, 2001, 24 years ago. Today, it is the intent of this Red Friday Patriots group to respectfully pay tribute to all those who died in that tragic event of 9/11, as well as the first responders who worked so diligently in recovery efforts, and those brave citizens who suffered long-term ill health or death because of their exposure to those harrowing sights. To all of you, Red Friday Patriots, and to our guests, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to share this important Patriot Day commemoration with you today. Patriot Day is a United States national observance that honors the memory of 2,997 innocent victims who ultimately died as a result of the Islamist terrorist suicide attacks on the United States and the more than 6,000 innocent people that were injured. Patriots Day also recognizes those who died attempting to rescue people trapped by the attacks. In fact, the number of lives lost from the 9/11 attack extends beyond the initial 2,997 victims, with thousands more dying from illnesses and injuries contracted in the years following those attacks. Even today, many first responders and survivors are suffering from cancers, respiratory diseases, and other chronic conditions caused by the toxic environment at Ground Zero, making the long-term death toll continuing to rise. It is expected that the total number of deaths from 9/11 related illnesses will soon surpass the nearly 3,000 people killed on the days of the attacks. That will total roughly 6,000 individuals who will have died as a result of that ordeal. To be clear, terrorism is defined as the threatened or actual use of illegal force and violence. Terrorism is perpetrated by a non-state actor to attain a political, economic, religious, or social goal through fear, coercion, and intimidation. I believe all of those objectives were evident by those 19 Islamist sadists who carried out the 9/11 attacks. The 9/11 terrorist objectives signaled a disdain for America's political posture, a disdain for America's global influence as a democratic republic, a disdain for capitalism and America's international economic influence, a disdain for America's religious freedoms, and a disdain for America's societal values and our traditions. The attacks were meant to disrupt all these cherished American institutions. But the disruption the terrorists had hoped for following 9/11 would be short-lived. America has a history of recovering from tragedy. How can we ever forget that on that day, only 24 years ago, when the terrorist group Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, launched a series of 4 coordinated attacks upon the United States by hijacking 4 commercial airliners scheduled to travel from the East Coast to California, and used those airplanes against high-profile United States targets. How can we possibly forget the murder of 2,977 people? Most of those who perished were civilians, except for 343 members of the New York City Fire Department and 71 law enforcement officers who died in the World Trade Center and on the ground in New York City. Thousands more were injured. Long-term health effects arose as a consequence of the attacks. At least 102 countries lost citizens in the attacks. You know, for many of us, Tuesday, 11 September 2001, began like any other weekday. We made our way to work. Children attended school. We did some grocery shopping, had coffee, maybe waited in line at a drive-thru for a breakfast sandwich. Those of us who weren't in New York City heard the first reports on the car radio or on television at home or at our office. For many, a friend or a neighbor called to alert us of a plane flying into the North Tower. That plane struck the North Tower at 8:46 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We immediately gathered around the television as each and every broadcast station reported on the tragedy. We felt disbelief. Was it an accident? Or perhaps a miscalculation? The attack on the North Tower resulted in 1,600 victims, plus the 92 passengers and crew of American Airlines Flight 11 that were killed in the hijacked plane used to attack the North Tower. In fact, the attack on the World Trade Center's North Tower alone made the September 11 attacks the deadliest act of terrorism in human history. Then, stunningly, 9:03 a.m., 17 minutes following the North Tower attack, a second plane flew into the South Tower, resulting in the death of 1,000 innocent people, plus the 65 passengers and crew aboard the hijacked United Airlines Flight 175. At that point, our disbelief turned into uncertainty and concern. Those on the ground faced terror and obstacles they had never, ever known. But then, as a set of coordinated suicide attacks organized by the militant group Al-Qaeda targeted other objectives, the rest of the nation witnessed the unbelievable. 200 miles southwest of New York City, in Arlington County, Virginia, at 9:37 a.m., a third plane crashed into the Pentagon, killing 125 people, including 55 military personnel, plus the 64 passengers and crew on American Airlines Flight 77 that was hijacked and used against the Pentagon. Many of the Pentagon employees observing the attacks on television did not think the attacks would extend past New York City. In fact, as Pentagon workers were watching the attacks, numerous comments were overheard stating, "This is the safest place in the world to be right now." Then, in total disbelief, the Pentagon was followed by a fourth hijacked plane, United Airlines Flight 93. That plane crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, killing 44 passengers and crew on board. Such a tragedy. We all knew too well what happened in America in the aftermath of 9/11. Our military and law enforcement agencies were on high alert. Commercial transportation ceased. The federal government moved quickly to develop a security framework to protect our country from large-scale attacks directed from abroad. And a program was promptly put in place to enhance federal, state, and local capabilities to prepare for, respond to, and recover from threats and disasters at home. In the immediate aftermath of that tragic event, the President of the United States proclaimed September 14, 2011, as National Day of Prayer and Remembrance. September 11 was officially made a National Day of Mourning, referred to as Patriot Day. The observance has been proclaimed annually by the President since 2002. The 9/11 attacks immediately propelled the United States and its allies into what soon became known as the global war on terror. Of note is that a key element of the United States response ultimately included the creation of the Department of Homeland Security in March 2003, bringing together 22 separate agencies and offices into a single cabinet-level position. And in response to the 9/11 terrorist attacks, Operation Enduring Freedom officially began 26 days later on 7 October 2001, with American and British bombing strikes against Al-Qaeda and Taliban forces in Afghanistan. Initially, the Taliban was removed from power, and Al-Qaeda was seriously crippled. But our armed forces continuously dealt with a stubborn Taliban insurgency and infrastructure rebuilding. Then finally, on 2 May 2011, U.S. Navy SEALs launched a raid on Osama bin Laden's compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, during Operation Neptune Spear, killing the demented al-Qaeda leader and mastermind of the September 11 terrorist attacks. Operation Enduring Freedom officially ended on 28 December 2014, although coalition forces remained on the ground to assist with training Afghan security forces. The United States Armed Forces completed its withdrawal from Afghanistan on 30 August 2021, marking the end of that 20-year war. Today, with more than 120 armed conflicts currently going on around the world, the global war on terror remains the top priority for our Department of War and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. As you are aware, on Patriot Day, the national flag is flown at half-mast on a United States government building and establishments. And a moment of silence is traditionally observed at 8:46 a.m., the exact time the first airplane struck the World Trade Center. I cannot imagine the pain and anguish this day must bring to the families of those that were killed on that fateful day in the history of the United States of America. 9/11, a day that will long be remembered. You know, I'm sure that you'll agree that American patriots are seldom recognized and thanked for demonstrating their patriotism, their love of country. But this morning, we're going to do just that. Occasionally, I'm compelled to ask my audience for a confirmation of patriotism and to simply raise their hands if they consider themselves to be an American patriot. That said, may I see the hands of our American patriots here this morning? Thank you. Now, I would ask that each of you patriots turn to those seated around you, look them in the eye, and tell each of them, thank you for your patriotism. Thank you for your patriotism. Now, doesn't it feel great to know that you are surrounded by fellow patriots who love this country and have a profound appreciation for our first responders and the men and women serving in our armed forces who afford us the opportunity to sleep soundly in our beds at night? I know this. I, for one, will be forever grateful for American patriots, and especially the men and women who every day don the uniform of a first responder or that of an armed forces service member and honorably serve to ensure the safety of our communities and our country. To do so is the epitome of patriotism. In recognition of your patriotism, we wish to present each of you with a memento expressing not only our appreciation for your patriotism, but as a stark reminder of the tragic event of 9/11 and the 2,997 innocent people who perished from those attacks. So please, form two lines coming down either side, meeting here in the center, and we will have our staff present you with one of these Patriot lapel pins. So as we commemorate the victims of 9/11, we must also reflect on the U.S. government's response and the lessons learned from the tragic event. We must reflect on the enduring legacy of resilience, unity, and service demonstrated by Americans and first responders. We must reflect on the importance of ongoing national security improvements. The attacks led to significant changes in U.S. national security, including the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, enhanced airport security like the Transportation Security Administration, or TSA, and increased global screening of container cargo. We must reflect on the long-term health and the psychological impacts on responders and communities, and the societal effects that continue to shape our beloved nation. Many first responders and residents in the vicinity of Ground Zero were exposed to toxic contaminants, leading to a range of physical illnesses and psychological trauma, including post-traumatic stress disorder. The attacks revealed the best of American spirit, inspiring a greater sense of duty, community involvement, and acts of service that help heal the nation and our spirit. And in the immediate aftermath, there was a powerful display of unity and shared duty among Americans, a spirit that continues to be invoked to this day as a way to honor those that were lost in those attacks. We can simply never forget. This nation remains committed to preventing further attacks on our soil, and the legacy of 9/11 continues to be a call for ongoing vigilance, for adapting strategies, and for upholding democratic values against threats to our way of life. God forever bless the victims of 9/11 and those who suffer the ill effects of that fateful day. And may God bring peace to the families of those innocents lost in that tragedy. I do have a few announcements that I would like to make this morning. A veteran stand-down is scheduled for Saturday, October 18, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. here at the American Legion Post 27. There will be multiple veteran resources and services that are manning booths on site. So, you may wish to mark your calendars, check it out. Jim Kenyon and I will be manning our Red Friday booth in hopes to attract new members to R.E.D. Also, this year's Southwest Veterans Foundation Patriots Ball, featuring a welcome home celebration honoring all Vietnam veterans, will be held on Saturday, October 25th, 5 to 10 p.m. at Point Hilton Tapatio Cliffs Resort on 7th Street in Phoenix. We will be putting out some information to you. The tickets for this are about $150. But I understand if you are a Vietnam veteran that you are invited at no charge. And I will have this out. May be a very nice event for you and your significant other to attend. Also, we have new generic business cards that were printed for you to distribute to prospective new members. The front is a Red Friday logo, and the back highlights our address, breakfast and program start time, our YouTube site, and a contact number. No name, just my phone number. When you exit the building today, our greeting staff will provide each of you with a couple of these cards, and we'll have the cards handy for future meetings if you require more. But it's a great opportunity to store these away in a purse or a wallet and have them available if you happen to interact with someone that you think might be a prospective member for R.E.D. Also, I want to advise that we have numerous guest speakers that are scheduled for the remainder of this year. I'm confident that you'll enjoy each speaker's presentation, so plan to attend to support them. Just thus far, we have scheduled speakers for next Friday, and then September 19, September 26, October 3rd, October 10, October 17, October 31, November 7, and December 5. A lot of guest speakers lined up. And we have some other speakers that are being pursued for some other open dates in November and December. Also, I want to advise that Terry Rapp, raise your hand, please. Terry is the Legion's captain of their color guard. She has 3 tickets for this Sunday's football game, Cardinals versus Panthers. Regular price on those are $63. She said that she will sell them for $50, 3 tickets. That's a bargain. Thank you for making that offer. And finally, as you depart the building, please leave your name badges at our greeting desk as you leave. To our guests, thank you for joining us today. We sincerely hope that you will return to share in our camaraderie and support our mission. Please know that you'll always be welcome at our Red Friday assemblies. And as a final reminder, let us not overlook the importance of Red Friday's mission to keep our deployed warfighters in our thoughts and prayers and continue to demonstrate our support for these fine men and women. Enjoy your weekend.